All right, call. I did say that.
You've been doing this for 30 years.
Didn't hear it.
I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. And we're going to rearrange the agenda here, and Emerson is going to present the Suffolk County Water Management Program Annual Report for 2014.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman, and members of the council. And thank you again for allowing us to present our annual stormwater report on behalf of Suffolk County as part of the public participation, public hearing process for the Phase 2 municipal stormwater program that we carry out for Suffolk County. We've done this for many years now and appreciate the opportunity to use this forum. This is a joint project with Cornell Cooperative Extension, Suffolk County DPW, and Suffolk County Department of Economic Development and Planning. And some people I'd like to recognize today, Cornell staff with me today, Lauren Brousseau and Carolyn Zukowski. And then also we have Frank Castelli with Department of Economic Development and Planning. Frank oversees our contract and provides a lot of input to our program. Eric Berge with DPW, who's our primary contact with DPW. We have a lot of interaction with DPW. Victor Kanibi is not here for the stormwater program, but he was very instrumental in getting this program up and started initially. And Paul Tenayhouse, who's with Suffolk County Soil and Water Conservation District, works with us on a variety of our activities as well. So I want to thank everybody for their participation in this program. And issues and questions raised by this council are always very helpful to our program, and we appreciate the input. I've got some extra copies of our annual report if anybody needs a copy, or if you need to have one on file. That's our annual report. And we submit, or the county submits this report to the DEC every year, and they review it. And actually the past couple of years they've been very good at getting back to us with comments, and I'd just like to read the review and commentary that we got back from the DEC on our 2013 annual report. The county's partnerships with the Peconic Estuary Program and its towns and villages will continue to ensure the cost effectiveness of the county's water quality initiatives. Suffolk County's MS4 stormwater management efforts are exemplary. The county's 2013 MS4 annual report continues to reflect efficient, consistent, dedicated attention to MS4 requirements. Strong aspects of the county stormwater program currently include targeted and prioritized outfall monitoring practices, completion and planning of post-construction remedial projects, including leaching basins, detention ponds, and alternative BMPs, inspection of over 2,100 stormwater structures, pollution prevention effectiveness assessment of county operations and facilities, employee training, a goose management program, excellent diversity of topics and audiences addressed by the education program, radio PSAs and web pages, engagement of the public at county presentations, events, and programs. The county's professionalism in fulfilling MS4 stormwater requirements is quite evident. Congratulations. So another favorable review by the DEC on the county's program. And with conversations we've had with people at DEC, they hold the county's program up as an example of what other municipalities should be doing for their stormwater programs. So I'd like to go through highlights of this past year's activities. And if you want to stop me as I'm going through, please feel free to do so. We'll also take questions and comments at the end. Thank you. And I'm going to go through these by each of the 6 minimum control measures that are required for the stormwater program. Under public education and outreach, we provided 112 youth classes reaching over 3,000 children throughout Suffolk County. But 80% of those school programs were conducted at schools within TMDL, total maximum daily load watersheds. We also had presentations to Civic Association meetings where 45 adults were reached, and an additional 368 youth and 300 adults were reached and educated with stormwater information at various public events and festivals. The stormwater website had 5,000 visitors who visited about 11,000 pages. A new page this year on on-site septic systems was added and is the second most popular page. And we also added this year a tip of the month to the website. We distributed an additional 4,800 copies of our brochure, Where Does the Rain Go?, and our children's activity page. We distributed those through our classes, through our outreach programs, through county offices and libraries, and we have both Spanish and English versions of that brochure. There were 114 radio PSAs that were aired on stormwater pollution prevention practices, primarily on WBAZ and WEHM. We also put together 5 one-half-hour magazine-type shows, videos, and they were aired on Cablevision, LTV, FiOS, and WVVH. So we continue to expand our audiences and the ways that we reach out through PSAs, both on radio and television. Stormwater management demonstration site at the Suffolk County Farm and Yacht Bank has been updated and maintained. Under public participation and involvement, we had 11 cleanup events that were held at county parks with approximately 455 volunteers. We constructed small rain gardens with 3 local public elementary schools, and we're actually looking to expand that. So if anybody has a contact with a local elementary or junior high or high school, please let us know. And Legislator Hahn, we'd be happy to do something in your district and involve you as well. If you could identify somebody and put us in contact with them, it would be great. 97 county road miles have been adopted by individuals and organizations, and each individual or organization has a 2-year contract, and cleanups occur 9 times a year. Suffolk County tracks the number and the nature of citizen complaints which pertain to stormwater-related problems. In this past year, there were a total of 128 complaints, 38 for flooding issues, 5 for culverts, 1 for a drainage issue, and most of them, 84, were on catch basin issues. Under illicit discharge detection and elimination, 44 outfalls were monitored for dry weather flow during this past year. Each outflow was visited 3 times to check for dry weather flow. And of those 44, 12 outfalls were found to have dry weather flow and were tested for illicit discharges or illicit connections, and none were found.
Emerson, I have a question.
Sure.
On the catch basin complaints, what do they center around?
I don't know. Carolyn, is that Carolyn or Eric? No. If we can get back to you on that. I mean,
Were they for mosquitoes or something, or lack of, drainage and
Oh, I thought you meant what area.
No, I'm talking about what was the
problem?
The type of problems associated with the catch basin.
I think it was probably the catch basin clogged up and backing up, although I'm not sure of that.
That's most likely what it was. If somebody knows that should be a catch basin underneath the puddle, and they'll just call highway maintenance and have them go out and clean it.
Okay.
So that it drains.
Under our continued stormwater conveyance mapping, the mapping for all 312 outfalls was updated, and a total of 2,700 conveyance structures, over 2,700 pipe connections have been mapped and entered into GIS, and that's specific for county roads and county properties and county facilities. and 350 miles of county roads were surveyed for evidence of failing septic systems. That's looking for on-site failing septic systems which could discharge into the county storm sewer system, and none were found. Under construction, post-construction site runoff control, in cooperation, we're working with the Suffolk County Soil and Water Conservation District. 4 erosion and sediment control training workshops were provided to 268 contractors. There were also some Suffolk County employees that attended those trainings as well.
Emerson,
Yes.
can I break in for a second?
Mhm.
A moment ago, you were talking about the GIS systems and you were mapping the county structures and basins, things like that. Do the towns have anything similar in terms of mapping, and is it possible to maybe combine the two to get sort of a real picture of how the disparate efforts are maybe coming together?
The towns are required to map their stormwater systems as well as the other municipalities, villages as well. The other municipalities are at different stages of mapping. Some have advanced fairly far, some haven't done a lot yet. We're also mapping where there's interconnections between another municipality and the county. You know, sometimes
That's what I'm
underground,
thinking.
yeah, some of the pipes connect. And in terms of an overall mapping, I think we've had some discussions with that relative to getting the mapping on the county website. Maybe you can help answer that question.
Well, yeah, we've talked about getting some of the maps on the county website, but in terms of your question of should all the municipalities share their data so there's one master map, that hasn't really happened yet. It's a good idea, and that's something we've talked about.
Yeah, I know it probably would cost a lot of money. You'd have to integrate the various systems.
Right, yeah, different municipalities will have different systems of inventory, they'll take different attributes for different structures and all that, so it'd be tough to do, but it's still something worthwhile doing, and I think every...
It probably would be. The county, for example, recently finally did a mapping of all of the STPs in the areas that they covered. And everybody, it was the county planning that did it, and took quite a long time to do it. And we were all amazed at what we saw. We'd never seen a map like that. And it gave a few ideas, and it showed a couple of dangerous things that were going on also. Just literally from just looking at a map, but the data had never been collated before. And that's the same kind of thing that I'm thinking about right now. For example, in my home community, town of Smithtown, some of the town's basins I've always worried about, shall we say, and I've never been able to get adequate mapping of it. I've always had a feeling that some of them, may have been built a long time ago, and there may be pipes going in where we don't want to have pipes going in. And without knowing those mapping or knowing where those locations are, it's very hard to figure out anything at this point in time. It's literally impossible sometimes to drag the information out. And again, I'm just throwing it out. If the county had an effort, or if you guys had an effort to do that, that'd be great. But again, I understand the limitations.
It's a great idea, it's just,
It just
it's
ain't
a lot
easy.
of coordination of different municipalities, and it'd be challenging to do, but worthwhile.
I want to follow up on that. DEC is where these reports get filed, right? They get the review. So DEC is a central focal point where all these reports are coming in. Why don't you get recommendation to DEC that they start to consolidate this material and come up with a comprehensive map of the whole system and who's working and who isn't working. And that recommendation should be made to DEC since everything goes in there, and this is a state law that we're complying with, is it not? So perhaps the state should start doing a job of coordination.
This, all of the public comments that we get on our report are incorporated into our annual report and then sent on to DEC. So that will certainly be in there, that recommendation for the DEC.
Yeah, that would be a good one since they stripped the Jim and I are laughing. They
Nobody
stripped
works
the
at
people.
DEC anymore.
Yeah, they stripped the people away who were doing this.
Right. But that will be a recommendation from public comment that will be part of our report.
Or perhaps the county could request funding from DEC to do the job for them.
It's always a possibility.
We're getting more laughter on the You're a comedian.
Yes.
Forgive me, because I wanted to go back to the education aspect. if
Sure.
you don't mind,
I do
Emerson.
too.
Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. I know you've been doing great efforts on this, and I thank you for, getting involved with LTV on it. We really appreciate airing those.
So thank you for the suggestion, we appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really great. And I have another suggestion that you might want to think about, the libraries. I don't know if there's any, it doesn't look like on here, it didn't say anything about libraries. I know on the East End, there's a lot of good programming going on with the various libraries, and we're working with all the libraries. We invited them to come to LTV and get involved with their programming so it can be aired. So you have, I think, great allies in the libraries on the East End in particular, because there's a very high awareness of the water issues out there. So I would recommend that as another thing to pursue. And then I have a question about developers. I noticed they're not part of the audience.
I do.
Can you just address that and just talk about that for a minute?
Yes. Suffolk County is a non-traditional MS4 and doesn't have the direct oversight of local local zoning and ZBA approval and those types of things. So the other municipalities that have direct control over that have more interaction with developers.
Right.
One of the things I did mention was that with the Soil and Water Conservation District, we conducted 4 erosion and sediment control workshops. And those are mostly for, most of the attendees were private contractors who contract with Suffolk County DPW for a lot of the projects that they carry out. So we do try to reach out to those contractors that are working with Suffolk County DPW. But in terms of, the developer who's developing 15 acres somewhere in Smithtown, that's more of a town issue than it is Suffolk County.
Right, well, I guess the question that I'm having in my mind, because there are organizations that, that they go to, I don't know the names of all of them, but, there's certainly organizations on Long Island that developers attend meetings, and perhaps a list could be generated to give to you about, what those names are of those organizations, because I think that they, are a major influence on what happens and what they present and
Right,
how it's
yeah.
perceived and how it's addressed and all that kind of.
Yeah, thank you for that suggestion. That's a good suggestion. And actually, as you were mentioning that, I was just thinking that we're in the process of trying to put together a program with, Lauren, do you remember the name of the association that Scott's working on with Floyd Carrington?
Oh, it's an engineering association.
Yeah.
So architects and engineers.
Yeah, it's an association of architects and engineers that actually came to us and asked if we could help them put together a workshop, a demonstration workshop, specifically for developers and contractors to learn about new types of sediment and erosion control devices that are being developed.
Basically, you should go to Libby.
I think that's a great, Libby is
Okay.
one of them, and also
Right.
the AIA, of which there are 2 chapters on Long Island. And, and perhaps this architecture and engineering organization plus the AIA, they might want to partner together in doing something because it'll give a broader reach.
Okay, great, thank you.
Since
in the
Eva brought up education,
Mhm.
I was going to wait, can I?
Sure. Yeah.
Things. On the page 4, you say disseminate as many stormwater brochures as possible. You put out 4,818 to 62, all 62 libraries and school programs. That doesn't seem, to me, I appreciate the effort, but that doesn't seem to be enough. It's at the beginning, well, it's page 1, it says page 1, page 4 of 4 that I'm looking at.
Okay,
So I think Eva's idea of libraries, the West End libraries are very active, and we're very involved in groundwater issues too.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like enough to me.
okay.
And then on the next page, civic associations, you say that in the reporting cycle, 21 civic members were reached. I would suggest that maybe you could reach out to more in the future.
For the civic associations, in previous years, we did reach significantly more people. I think just over the past 5 years, we've hit just about every Rotary club that would take us. And then we've hit most of the gardening clubs in Long Island. So we were kind of the point we were running out of some of the target civic groups. And now we're just starting to try and just go back to the ones we did before, just because we probably have new numbers and whatnot. So in previous years, we did have more outreach to civic groups. And we hope to have more this year and following years as well.
And in programs, I would encourage you to, if you could, to follow up with rain garden programs in all these areas, because it's a hot topic and everybody is interested in rain gardens. And there are demonstration rain gardens several places, and if you could teach, that goes for not only schools, but municipal buildings, libraries also. That would be a good outreach. My other question you haven't come to yet. It's goose,
Okay,
so I won't say anything until you get to that.
okay. Okay, but thank you for the suggestions, I appreciate it, thank you. Anything else? Back to construction, post-construction. Contractors operating on county projects are required to certify that they've read and understand the requirements of the stormwater pollution prevention plans. The successful implementation of the requirements of these plans by the contractors, in addition to the county inspector's efforts, has ensured that no water quality violations have been issued to the county during the past year for any of its construction activities. Suffolk County invests extensive resources into implementing remediation efforts such as new technologies, as well as leaching basins, detention ponds, alternative best management practices. As at the end of this reporting period, there were 87 projects completed since the program began for these innovative technologies, as well as leaching basins and so forth. There's 3 projects that are funded in the design phase, and 6 projects are currently being constructed. Retrofit plans and watershed improvement strategy documents for 17 total maximum daily load watersheds in Suffolk County have been completed and submitted to the DEC as required in our program. We've prioritized a list of 27 potential retrofit projects located in TMDL watersheds, and we've passed that along to DPW.
Emerson?
Yes.
On that particular subject, how, I'm not sure exactly how to express this, but are these, shall we say, giant contributors to the total maximum daily allowances, or are these smaller basins? For example, you can have a single catch basin that's relatively small and it pops directly out into a wetland, or you can have a giant, giant catch basin, wherever, leading into the same, say, impaired water body.
Right.
Do you have any idea what we're looking at? I mean, are these still terrible terrible situations, or are these, have we picked the low-hanging fruit and we're now reaching up?
Some of what we did with this was looked at some of the modeling of runoff coming through watersheds. And I'm going to defer to Lauren and Carol, they're the ones who actually worked on this. You could stand on that a little bit.
I'd say it's a mix. There's definitely, the county is responsible for county roads, county basins, and comparatively to the other surrounding municipalities in these watersheds, it's relatively small compared to other kind of stores in these areas.
Good enough, thank you.
Watershed data and information on the county stormwater management practices have been collected and put into the watershed treatment model, which is a model that the DEC suggested that municipalities use. And we've calculated pollutant loads attributed to the county's MS4 as required on the Phase 2 permit. So that kind of goes along with the previous component of identifying potential retrofit locations. Under pollution prevention and good housekeeping, county maintained roads, bridges, and parking lots were swept according to their annual rotating shift schedule, and approximately 700 miles of road and 20 acres of parking lot were swept. Stormwater structures were inspected and cleaned, resulting in approximately 3,000 cubic yards of debris removed from these structures.
Question on that, and where's the debris go?
Goes into lined landfills that are able to accept it.
It's basically plastic waste.
No, that's what I mean, that's the question.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's the information that we have. Eric, do you have anything additional on
That's
that?
correct. That's correct.
How many structures?
I don't have the number of structures that were cleaned here. I have the 3,000 cubic yards that were removed. I don't know, Carol, do you know how many actual structures were cleaned?
Not urgent.
A lot of them.
Good enough answer for me.
Does that also mean that every structure that needed to be cleaned is cleaned?
Well, it's once, you know, they have a schedule that they work on to clean the structures, and then, as we were talking about previously, if there's any complaints about catch basins that are full of debris, those get cleaned as well. We finalized the development of our training program for Suffolk County DPW and Department of Parks and Recreation employees. And that training program was initiated with DPW staff this year. And so far 34 staff members were trained during this report period. And we're going to be expanding that to other DPW employees as well as Parks employees. We continued conducting evaluations of Suffolk County municipal operations and maintenance facilities in order to assess stormwater best management practices. A self-assessment checklist was used in evaluating practices at 4 Suffolk County DPW sites located in the county. We aided the county in establishing a resident goose management program. 60 different Suffolk County sites were inspected for nests during the 2013 nesting season. A total of 76 nests were treated, resulting in 338 eggs oiled. And overall, the program has resulted in the treatment of 172 nests and 783 eggs. And we have a question on the goose management program.
It just seems like a low number to me.
Mm-hmm.
You need hunters.
No,
Yeah, but it only deals with county roads, that's the problem.
not county parks.
Yes, county facilities.
The county facilities in
Yes.
the parks.
Yes, right.
And we're doing a goose management plan in Huntington.
Mhm.
And we have far greater numbers. But the timing has to be right. And you know that.
Mhm.
I'm not telling you anything
We don't have any nesting to speak of. Nothing significant.
Yeah, I was
We
gonna
don't have
ask.
resident geese populations nesting like you do at Heckscher Park or some other places.
Oh,
They don't come on the county stuff, they go to the state or the town.
Well, at Timber Point, where we have the most geese, really, they
How about
nest
right
on
here, the
state
Denison
property.
building?
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
right here, outside.
That's not a park. That's not a park.
Kind of facility.
Well, but as an example, we
They do
do
have a car.
we do have an active goose management program here at the Denison building, and some of the issues that we've run into was that as we treated the nests on the ground, they started to nest on the roof of the building, which is difficult for us to treat up on the roof of the building. The other thing is we fenced off some of the areas where there were fences to try to keep the geese out. And what they did is they would just come in from the top, and these were small areas, you know, the size of this desk was smaller, half of it the size of the nest. And then we couldn't get in there to oil the eggs because we couldn't chase the geese out to get to the eggs. So they tend to outsmart us sometimes. Carolyn, is there anything you want to add to the goose management
We
program?
do hit a lot of parks that have been going
I'm
on.
sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Well, we do hit most parks. They really do enjoy islands and peninsulas, which a lot of county properties don't have. So I am familiar with the town of Huntington's program. Christian Grinelli, I believe,
Yes.
is the point on that project. And they have one island in the middle of Northport Harbor, I think it is, where they get 40 nests on this one island. So we, for the county program, we're mostly limited to our what type of properties and just where the geese prefer to nest. But we do hit 60 to 70 different sites across, county sites across Long Island. So,
Thank you.
guidelines
They're
and
on
pockets.
site.
Can you spike the roof?
I don't know, we'll pass that suggestion along, I guess. We can't do it, but maybe somebody within building maintenance can do it.
I had a conservation board meeting last night, and we said to Christian, how do you prevent being attacked? And he took out an umbrella because, it was raining so hard, and he said, with the umbrella.
Right. But yeah, that's standard practice.
If geese are smart, they'll figure something out.
Right.
It doesn't work so well with density, though, right? The geese here are just so aggressive, they're really not intimidated by us or umbrellas.
Spray bottle.
That's the end of my report and the highlights of our activities through the past year.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I got one quick question. The outfalls to wetlands that the county has over the last couple of years, how much do you think has been, shall we say, fixed? Or how much of a reduction has there been in terms of, catch basins overflowing into wetlands and things like that? I'm not so concerned about the inland areas. I'm concerned more about the perimeter, where the wetlands generally are. Do you think that the efforts have been very, very effective that you and the county have been working on to try and cut that flow off?
Yes, and we can't address all areas right away. It's a process that the county goes through as they have funds to address areas. And, that's where we
I'm looking at it
interact.
from a historical standpoint.
And that's, I'm sorry?
I'm looking at it from maybe a historical standpoint, going back a few years.
Okay.
I mean,
But that's where we are, as I mentioned, we've prioritized a list of 27 potential retrofit locations. So we work with DPW on that, and every year we identify additional sites. And as they have funds, they address those areas. And as they have roadway projects, they also, address stormwater issues when they're doing those roadway projects. In terms of total reduction of flow, I don't know. Again, I'm going to defer here to Eric and Lauren. You guys have some additional information on that?
We do have some data mapped of project sites dating back to, I want to say, the 80s. Before this was officially even a program. Back in the 80s, recharge basins were built, leaching basins were installed, and that all counts. And even through current, I'd say yes. But, in short, yes, we made significant progress. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I'd say a very significant percentage of discharges to freshwater and tidal wetlands have been addressed at this point.
That's good. Thank you.
I have one question, Emerson. I assume that the details of your program and this report are found, on the web?
Yes.
I would like the minutes to reflect, where the program and this report can be found on the web, and that it noted that additional public comments can be received, can it be directly received on the web or by mail?
Certainly by mail. I'm not sure, is there a way directly on the...
Yeah, there's our email address, so if you have comments, you can just submit it through email right to us.
Okay, so, and have our minutes reflect that as well, that,
Yep.
public
Yeah,
comments,
yeah.
additional public can be, sent directly to you
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah, the website is Suffolk Stormwater. You get it directly through Suffolk Stormwater or a link off of the Suffolk County website.
Yeah, and I believe the link's on the homepage, isn't it?
Yes, right on the home.
So it's right on the homepage, suffolkstormwater.com. You can get the annual report, and then there's a link for email addresses if you want to submit comments.
Great. So, I mean, that way if somebody's reading the CEQ minutes and they're interested, they can go directly to the website.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to thank you once again for a very nice report and continuing program. Any other questions?
Thank you again for the opportunity, and thank you for the comments and suggestions. They're always very helpful.
Thank you for the good work, Emerson.
Thank you.
You didn't sing though.
I'm waiting for you to lead, White. Just one last thing. I'd like to recognize Elise J. I think Elise joined us after I got started. Elise is with Suffolk County Department of Economic Development and Planning, and she also works with us on this project.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you for
Thank
your work.
you.
All right, I'd like to continue on the agenda, and I'd like to recall the meeting to order with quorum present. All right, first thing on the agenda, the minutes of March 2014. Does anybody have any comments? All right. Can I call for approval of the March 2014 minutes? Any have a motion? All right,
So moved.
so moved. Do I have a second?
All right, I'll second for purposes.
Second. All right. All those people in favor of the March 2014 minutes? Okay. Anybody opposed?
I have to abstain,
Yeah, 3 of us are going to abstain.
because I wasn't there.
Does that make the motion carried or?
Majority of voting people?
All right, majority of voting people, so the minutes are approved.
Okay.
All right, I will take the correspondence. There is none, but for the public portion, as the projects or information on the agenda for Historic Trust are presented, if the public has any comments to make, they can make them at the time of the presentation. So moving on to the next item on the agenda is the Historic Trust docket and the director's report.
Good morning. The housing program, again, all of our rental units are occupied at this point, so there's no issues there. With our custodial agreements, I don't have anything new to report now, but I'd like to provide an update on a couple of our historic projects. The request for proposal went out Monday for the restoration of the Holman House in Yaphank. If you know, we've been working on this for a number of years to try to get to this point. So I do have full planning monies to pay for a restoration architect and hoping to get some additional capital funds in the budget this year to do that job and move it forward. And we've stabilized the building. We did quite a bit of work in that phase, and also the Yaphank Historic Society kicked in a lot of donated labor and materials especially on the foundation.
Which one is the Homans house?
That's
What's
the
location?
1790, was used for the Miller's house there, and it's directly opposite the Hawkins house.
Okay, yeah, it's on the other side of the street?
Yes,
And that's where they had the police canine unit?
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So that project's moving forward. And I also like to bring you up to date on the Hubbard County Park Master Plan. The request for proposal did go out for that project. We did meet with prospective bidders on site, and I'm going to turn them over to Nick Gibbons to give you an update on that, the status of that project.
I think we've been updating you guys all along, but Rich and I worked with DPW to develop the scope of work, and the master plan is very unconventional in the sense that it's not for park development per se. Actually, the opposite is probably more true. It's more about park preservation, and there are a number of historical buildings and elements on the site. And Rich and I have been working hand in hand and then closely with DPW to alert them to those and make sure that those are a critical part of the overall plan. We had an on-site meeting which was required for all the prospective bidders, and I think there were 8 firms maybe, of 9 that they sent it out to. So DPW received a waiver to send it out to a subset of the overall group of consultants out there. They can get permission to do that. So of the 9 they sent it to, 8 actually came. And there were a lot of good questions. We took them on the site. We spent a couple of hours at both Hubbard and then hooked them around to Black Duck, which will be part and parcel, and is part and parcel of Hubbard County Park, which is an assemblage of properties, about 3,000 acres or so. So, and I know you guys are all intimately familiar with both Hubbard, Smithers rather, the collection of buildings on one site, and Black Duck over on the other side. We were going to have a meeting at Smithers. I don't think it ever happened, right? It was canceled.
Right, it's
or-
canceled, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Spring didn't happen either.
No.
Weather.
So I don't remember the circumstances, but I think we tried to do that pretty recently. But
Yeah.
maybe we'll do that again if there's interest on the council's part to go to a satellite site. We can refresh your memories as to what that looks like. But what we're really looking to do is we gave them some basic guidance as to what we're looking for the building's use. We think of a visitor center. I'm not sure if we discussed it here, but my concept for a biological field station, if you know what that is. I mean, this site is significant enough that it could warrant such academia and presence there. So fostering some relationship with a university, I think, would be a great use for at least some part of the infrastructure there. There are famous research forests in New York State, in fact, that have been around for over a century. And I think this place could lend itself to really being a regionally significant biological research forest, or not even just forest, but it's very varied habitats there, and very unique by Long Island standards. The county pretty much owns the continuum of upland property and freshwater wetlands all the way out to the estuary. And to the extent that I'm repeating myself, feel free to butt in, because I've had to repeat this several times in different groups. But there's 4 creeks on the site. They're all ecologically significant. You can make the argument, as I have, that this property is the most ecologically important in our inventory of nearly 50,000 acres. So those 4 creeks, the county by and large owns from their groundwater fed, right, of where they are on their upland portion all the way out to Peconic Bay. Peconic Bay is an estuary of national significance that's designated as such by EPA. Our property is significant regionally and has been recognized by both New York State DEC and by the Central Pine Barrens Commission. And in addition, on the county level, there's all kinds of safeguards in place for the protection of its development by virtue of how we acquired it, how it's subsequent to acquisition's been classified.
Is it nature preserve right now?
There are parcels within it that are dedicated to. I really never advocate for such dedication, only because that classification is very restrictive, to the point that even the authors of the handbook recognize that that's it was well-intentioned at the time, but it's become something of a encumbrance.
Restrictive. I mean, the creeks
Yeah.
I could see being in it. You know, where the built structures are, I could see not being in a nature preserve.
Well, the
Not
creeks-
natural.
It's hard to say because, quite honestly, it's hard to divide. We're trying to get away from dividing certain pieces of property as one classification versus another. Black Duck itself, for instance, has a historic classification for 10 acres, embedded within a parcel that's hundreds of acres, and it's problematic. Rich and I worked together to reclassify the Smithers Camp property, the entirety of it, as a historic designation for a lot of different reasons. The buildings are historic in one sense. The water control structures on site that were developed either historically for what we believe to be a colonial era mill, I suppose, and but there were other things that were done to the site in the gunning era. You know, water was essentially dammed up so there'd be habitat. There'd be habitat for ducks. There'd be ducks for shooting, etc. So, and we want to perpetuate those, both the uses and the features on the property. They've now become naturalized, significant freshwater wetlands, and it adds to the variety of the property. You probably couldn't get a permit today to dam up such a creek that way, but now that it's there and has been there for many decades, it's in and of itself a significant habitat.
Yeah,
So
unless
just
you
back
got-
to...
Unless you
I'm
see
sorry?
chart Guthrie, it'll say, knock it out, take the dam out and let the alewives go up or something.
That if you
That's
want to
always
choose
an
one
issue.
species, you manage it a certain way. If you want bass upstream, then you better have that dam there, otherwise you're not going to have those. So you can go either way
I've
with
fought
that.
this battle with chart over the years.
And we don't have, at least at present, a battle to fight there. There's nobody advocating for that. If we could accommodate and it was warranted, we would look at fish passage, but we have decided that there's really nothing significant there to get to. All these streams are, of course, bisected by State Route 24. So, yes?
Mike, just to refresh your institutional memory, when we brought this property to CEQ for designation, at that time, we considered nature preserve, and Nick helped us with that, and made the cogent argument, I think, that it wasn't appropriate, that we could protect it in other ways that would be
I hear you.
just
In
as
terms-
stringent, but not as
Not as restrictive.
restrictive.
Yeah, I mean, I know nature preserve. But
Right, anyway,
It's
but
been
it
like
was
that.
considered at that time.
Just, I have a personal predilection for certain natural features. I always try and go nature preserve whenever possible, understanding that there are possible problems with it.
Okay.
I've just, been
But
here.
that, we went through all
I
of
know, I
that
remember.
here.
I do
Okay,
remember.
okay.
I just get jumpy about things, is all I can
Okay.
say.
And Nick, I think that it's great that the educational aspect of what you want to do with that property. I think it's a really, fabulous, very appropriate thing to be doing there. There's so much to be learned. Considering also it's a world-class cedar, is it a white cedar?
Well, there's an Atlantic white cedar
Atlantic white
swamp
swamp,
population.
right, which is
It's a-
unique to.
Yes,
And
yes it is.
It's significant from what I understand.
It is, it's certainly by Long Island standards it is. It was once a very significant, in terms of acreage, habitat. It was
Right.
harvested because of its qualities as lumber.
Right.
There are pockets of it. In fact, across the street here at Blydenburg, there's quite a nice Atlantic white cedar stand
Okay.
still present. So if you know where to look for them, you can find them. They're really remnants of a long gone past.
Right.
You're talking where
The stumps.
the trail is?
The boardwalk at
Yeah.
Blydenburg, it does kind of, by design, when we laid that out, I wanted to kind of highlight that as a habitat you could kind
Yeah,
of get a
that's the
sense
Atlantic
of.
cedar.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah, they're
right.
very
It's a beautiful-
uniquely.
If none of you have ever been there, it's an amazing place to go to.
Well, these are the
Assuming you don't get
stumps
West Nile.
Oh,
mostly.
right. Yeah,
These are stumps.
There's evidence there that
Yeah.
shows the recession of the tidal wetland and meadow
Right.
at Peconic Bay, and shows you can look out into the water column in 6 or 8 feet of water and see remnant stumps of where the
It's
forest
pretty
there used to be.
fascinating. Yeah.
So that would be a research opportunity. I
Yeah.
told Rich, there's just dozens of and many thesis opportunities out there that
Yeah.
you seek to add to the institutional knowledge of the property.
Well, also, Hubbard has probably every habitat on Long Island within its borders almost.
Just about, yes.
Just about,
Yeah.
which makes it very unique.
There's even a beach
How
habitat
many
there.
acres are available to the public?
Well, it's all available to the public in one sense or another, but we don't do a very good job at present of getting the public in there, and that's something that we seek to correct with this process.
But every people
Yes,
can,
yes you can, but you need to know kind of where to park. It's not as welcoming as I hope to have it at some point. hmm
But it's very walkable. I mean, there are trails.
Yes, there are. The Pomanog path goes
Yeah.
right through the property.
Yeah.
I mean, the property is used, and we're not looking for a significant increase in the formal use of it to the detriment of what makes it
Yes.
special in the first place. We understand that. But, it has two waterfront access sites that is underutilized and unknown. There's really no, like I said, to pull up and park and take a walk, which I've tried to do at other places. A lot of these passive parks, we've established formal sites because people coming from Huntington, say, want to drive all the way out to Flanders, they expect to see, and understandably so, a sign that says, this is where you park and access the property. And they should feel that comfortable doing so, and that we do not have that at present. So that's something that we look to address through this planning process.
Yeah, I think that's important to note that the planning process can incorporate the historic elements and the natural elements and not have to go to restrictive designations for those particular areas. If it's presented in the plan, then basically that can be accomplished and give the Parks Department more flexibility.
It's understood that there's going to have to, there's not going to be a significant need, as I see, for tree removal, for instance. However, a couple of trees will have to be taken down to form an area, to designate an area, and so be it. I'm at peace with that. It's not, and the department, the plan will help to identify those areas. It'll be brought all back to you for consideration, ultimately to the legislature. When we get that adopted, and then, we're complete with that process, we can move forward and implement some of these elements. I think it'll really be a nice enhancement to the property. It's very much an unknown place, and that in and of itself is special. And I hate to lose that, but I think it's important to understand that there needs to be a balance and get some real public access in there for everybody's enjoyment. It shouldn't just be for the enjoyment of those who have the benefit of knowing it exists.
Especially the educational part, I think that is significant.
We don't really have a relationship with one of our, like we do in so many other places, for an Audubon group or some presence on the site to fulfill that role in the absence of park staff to do the same. But I think it's the kind of thing where if we highlight the need, some such group might come out of that process and be interested in taking on such a role.
Englebright is very good. on that kind of
Englebright's the
stuff.
best,
I mean,
yeah.
he's always shown a very, very special interest in that particular park.
And he
Well,
lectures.
this program comes
Yeah.
from, this grant that makes all this possible comes from his office, so we should always
Yeah.
acknowledge that. We're grateful to them for making that happen for the department. It's,
His program that he does, I mean, he does a walkthrough that's amazing. It's a lecture that he does. Great.
so I think the next step is, I can't give you specifics on dates, but there'll be an analysis of, an assessment of the proposals that are received and so forth. We'll come back, I suppose, once one has been selected, and share with you all from time to time where we are in the process. I'm thinking that the whole thing is probably a 12 to 18 month endeavor, all said and done, before you guys see a document here.
Anything else, Richard, on your
Yes,
historic
I
trust?
just wanted to bring to your attention, I handed this out, the Leah's Preservation Awards for 2014. They are including the Yaphank Historic Society for their organizational excellence. You can attend this if you're interested, and this group has done quite a bit in the Yaphank Historic District besides the county properties. They've now moved into the town of Brookhaven Sweezy House, which they're establishing as a place for exhibits and their archives, and a lot of work just to maintain the town of Brookhaven Historic District. And they're actually, if you don't know, the first group that worked with Suffolk County Parks on an historic building, and the Hawkins House was the first county-owned historic building that was open to the public. So they're kind of an unsung organization there, so they're definitely deserving of this award. I don't know if Mary Ann wants to add anything. Okay. And that's all I have for that.
I was gonna say, just the place that's being held, they did such an incredible.
That's getting the award too.
Yeah, I can see it, the Rogers and Ferris and Partners. It's a really amazing building, and the property, what they've done with the property, because they're doing slow food, cooking there, and inviting farmers from all over the eastern end to bring, they're having like farmers markets and stuff there, local produce and stuff. It's really an interesting place.
And that corner looks great now.
Yeah, they cleaned it up.
With the restoration of
Nick?
Yes.
One quick question.
Mhm.
Eva brought up the fact that Steve Engelbright occasionally leads walks through Hubbard. Is that organized in any way, shape, or form, or is it like do you do it like once or twice a year or anything like that?
I can't say I wouldn't necessarily see a permit that the department would issue, a group permit to take a walk out like we do with the Greenbelt Trail Conference and a host of other groups. It's possible he doesn't even file for the permit. I don't know.
Yeah, he does it with students, and he did it with the AIA when we were studying that whole property, and we did a review on things that would be good to do there. I invited him to come down, and he did an amazing tour. We had a few other people who gave us tour. The Baykeeper did it as well. And it was very informal.
Do you know of any one of them coming up in the near future or anything?
I don't, but you can call his office.
Yeah, I'll call him.
And find out. You can call the Baykeeper too if he's doing anything.
Well, he doesn't exist anymore, but
He doesn't? Oh, I don't know about that. What?
this fine.
He what?
he was fired.
Oh, he was? Oh. Well, I mean, he did a great program with us. It was very educational, that's all I can say.
Is that all?
What did he do?
Oh yeah, big scandal.
Huh? Okay. All right, you'll tell me later.
Richard, is that all?
Oh, Newsday?
Okay, I'd like
Did
to
something
move on
naughty?
to the next item on the
Oh.
agenda, which is the proposed roadway safety and capacity improvements on CR 13, Crooked Hill Road, Town of Ice, in Smithtown.
Good morning. My name is Rich Geiger. I'm with Sidney Bound's office in Mineola. We're the consultants for Suffolk County DPW. With me is Victor Kanibi from Suffolk County. He's the project manager. And also Rich Sapolsky, the Commissioner of Planning and Development for the Town of Islip. The picture I have here is the same one you have in your packet, just obviously a little larger. This is a 1.5 mile road improvement on CR 13 Crooked Hill Road, and it extends from just below Community College Drive, where the Suffolk Community College is, right down here, and it goes just to north of the Long Island Expressway up to Garrett Place by the new Lowe's complex. 1.5 miles. It's predominantly within the town of Islip up to the expressway, and then north of the expressway, this little piece here is within the town of Smithtown, which is why you received two town information in the packet. This is the typical road reconstruction project. It's pavement improvement, pavement widening. They want to put in a 4-lane road with a common left turn lane, and also provide multiple left turn lanes at major intersections if necessary. It'll be pavement improvement, it'll be widening, continuous curb on both sides, sidewalk on both sides, a new drainage system. Currently what they have right now is independent leaching pools, wherever they strategically decide to locate them. And also, as you get to the north, some of the water will run down into the New York State recharge basin number 99 to south of the expressway, and will find its way into the recharge basin and dissipate there. What the county is proposing is two positive systems with the crossover at the Sag, the high point. Everything north will go into recharge basin number 99, and some of this from Smithtown comes south into the recharge basin. And then to the south, the county currently has a project south of this project where they are developing a positive system into an existing town of Islip recharge basin. And what we will be doing, we'll be starting at the Sag overpass, we'll continue south, and we will tie into their endpoint with our positive drainage system, and everything will again go into the town of Islip recharge basin. Currently, this project, we have submitted 40% plans to Suffolk County DPW. They reviewed them, gotten back the comments to us, and we're now working towards the 80% submission, which we anticipate about 1 month from today. We've also submitted acquisition maps. We have probably about 10 acquisition maps to various municipalities, Town of Islip, IDA, the DASNY, Dormitory Authority, New York State Parks, and New York State DOT. We actually are going to encroach onto the recharge basin property as we shift the road for strategic reasons. We're going to incorporate some super elevations into the road and widening, as I said. And also, we're going to have, there'll be 5 new signalized intersections along the way, which will reflect the new left turn lanes and right turn lanes where necessary. Groundwater is about 30 feet from the road surface. There's really not an issue with groundwater. There are no freshwater wetlands within the area, as you saw from the map. I really don't see where this is really a significant environmental project. There should really be no significant environmental impacts from construction. There will be excavation. I think it says about 7,000 cubic yards of road material that will be excavated. The entire road, for either purposes of condition or grades or alignment, will be excavated. And I'm assuming that some of the asphalt will be recycled. A lot of the subgrade material below that will be taken by the contractor to approved landfills. There's no hazardous materials, obviously, within this project that we need to be concerned with.
Well, wait, did you test for anything, or this is just?
I have
guessing?
reports. Well, I have reports. I went back on the some of the state websites for any spills
And you
or
didn't see anything?
not. I went back to 1980, and the spills that they did have, there were probably a dozen, and they were all addressed, and it said the report was closed. And that's reflected in
That's good enough.
the packet also, yeah.
One quick question on that map. The
Sure.
lower left, is that the community college? I'm just trying to orient.
The college is right here. Here's the college.
What's that development? Okay, you were right then. What's the development to the lower left?
White column.
This
that's
in
Pilgrim?
here is going to be the Heartland project.
Okay.
That's Jerry Wyckoff.
All right.
Is he contributing to this?
Right. Don't ask those questions.
ESD is the major contributor. Apparently, Jerry will be contributing. You know what? We don't work for Jerry right now. We're working for the county.
Yeah, I understand.
I'm not going to comment on that. I did fail to mention that there also was an acquisition on the Suffolk Community College property. And that was submitted to John DeMayo probably 2 or 3 months ago. It's been reviewed and basically approved by the college. We are acquiring approximately 3/4 of an acre along CR 106 and along the frontage on CR 13 actually, and this project will actually improve the main entrance they have there off CR 13. That's basically
I have
it.
a question. You know, with the proposed development for Wyckoff, is
Yeah.
he going to come out on this road? Are there
It will,
curb cuts to this road?
the main entrance is being improved. I mean, so my assumption is, and I don't have the plans, for his project yet, that they will be using that main entrance, which is obviously the reason why this road is being widened for traffic purposes. It's being widened and
So
improved.
this project takes that into account?
This is that's one of the reasons why this project is being done. It's for the future Heartland project to the west.
All right.
Bike lanes?
Yeah.
No,
Thank you.
there are no designated bike lanes. We have in general, it's a 4-lane road with a common left turn lane, and there are shoulders. It is not at this time a designated bicycle lane. No. The shoulder is 6 or 7 feet. Now, whether in the future that can be changed to a designated bike lane, I don't know.
But if there's a shoulder and it's next to Suffolk Community College, there are students.
We have new sidewalks on both sides of the road where they'll be able to walk.
The entire stretch is sidewalk?
Sidewalk on both sides.
But
For the
I'm
full lane.
talking about bike.
Yeah, at this time, there is no provision for a bicycle lane.
That's frankly not something that the county has favored in the past. I'm curious
That's
why it's
correct.
dropped out of the
Right.
project.
Yeah.
That's basically where these guys are leading to.
Yeah. What, is there any logic, is it something you're
recommend.
considering, or? Has it
The
been?
county has not told us to consider it or to design for it or prepare for it. So at this time, and again, we just completed the 40% design stage. Bicycle lanes are not part of the project at this time.
In your
I would
opinion,
recommend a bike lane.
since you're saying there's a 6-foot shoulder
Yeah.
on both
Not the whole
sides?
length. It's 6-foot shoulder only in small areas, not the entire.
Yeah, okay, I would say, yeah, I think correct. The shoulder does decrease actually down to about 2 feet in some areas.
Okay.
If you expanded that, would you have to do a taking?
The takings would be increased, it would have a significant impact on the grades to the sides where you have some significant slopes.
Right.
The conceptual plan, which was done maybe 6 months ago or more, was, we shifted back and forth many times. We tried to stay away from the major utility poles you have there. We tried to minimize our takings, and
Let me
Community
look.
college on the other road.
Yeah, but let me ask you a different question. Are the sidewalks are there going to be 2 sidewalks?
there'd be
Sidewalk on both
both sides, west and
All right,
east.
question. If bike lanes are also important, what about losing one of the sidewalks and going with 1 sidewalk instead of 2?
And have
You gain,
crosswalks, yeah.
I don't know, 6, 7, 8 feet? That's a possibility.
And Andy, isn't...
Well, the area south of that, the south project, we don't have the property. We only have 2-foot shoulder. And we cannot do the acquisition for the bike lane, so it doesn't make sense
No,
to
what
make it.
was
only this
suggested
one.
was remove the bike on the west side, say, and with the area that you
No,
just
one
lost from the
side.
We
side.
have to have at least 10 foot from the face of the curb to the property line. We can't designate it for bike lane.
So in other words, you will not have enough footage?
Yeah, we cannot.
Even if we eliminate a sidewalk?
That's correct.
Eva,
Yeah.
the best way to go on this,
Yeah.
if they're having design problems, is to simply, in our motion, recommend bike lanes.
Right.
You know, we're not a design group where we try and force a design necessarily down the county's throats or anything. We're looking at it, if you will, from 30,000 feet, not from 50 feet.
Right.
And yeah, we're seeing a problem, I think, with the issue of the lack of bike lanes. And again, it has been county policy to go with bike lanes, okay? Especially right by community college, things like
Right.
that, kids ride.
Yeah, but they
But
had
we-
access on the other roads, Michael.
Yeah,
This is
but-
gonna be a major access road into this new development with Wyckoff. You're gonna have people.
I'm just saying
going in and
recommend
out of
That
there.
have bike
people
lanes.
will
And that's the other thing, if it's gonna
riding
be,
bicycles.
Right.
people in the
Right.
development are gonna be hopefully riding bicycles. That's the
Well,
purpose of having
In
a
the
city over
past,
there.
Suffolk County has done a lot of, did a plan on bikeways and everything else. And I'd really like to have a presentation before we get into this thing, is what is the legal liability of Suffolk County by putting bikeways on the roads if people get hit?
It's
I
normal
mean-
liability, Jim. There's no additional
I
liability
want
because of
another
construction.
presentation. I would like Andy to explain to us Suffolk County's buy-in to complete streets. And I think it would be helpful for us. The legislation is passed. I think we need to know
Yeah.
what is in the complete streets legislation. It includes, I'm sure, pedestrian, bike.
And maybe they can certainly
Now,
bury the
that's a county
lines.
law
I
or
mean, if
state law?
they have
It's
to
a
act.
county.
County
It's
plan.
county law.
Suffolk County explain.
Well, generically, it requires all county departments to review complete streets legislation and see if they can incorporate that into their projects. It doesn't require that it has every aspect of complete streets, but it does require the departments to review complete streets and see if they can bring in as much of that as practical.
Well, we're hearing that that is occurring. But
Following that, the Suffolk County Planning Commission, when they review projects on a particular county roadway or something like that, would also consider complete streets and make recommendations on projects when it's before
I don't know
them.
how you plan to upgrade a road that the stated intention is for this tremendous project that's
Thank you.
supposed to be walkable, bikeable community.
Thank you.
Where people don't need their cars, and then not plan to build out to be complete. It's just, that is,
Unconscionable.
yes, and especially to the neighboring community college. I can't, sounds like you're cutting a lot of corners and not wanting to spend a lot of money, but there's gonna be a lot of money dumped into that project to make it happen. And maybe that's where we should request of the developers that they help make it happen in the way that is envisioned. And it's really problematic, I think, that we're not planning on that kind of scale.
I would ask Andy and Jim, does this rise to the level of a pos deck in terms of this particular issue that Kara's bringing up? I mean, we're looking at an environmental issue, not in terms of, if you will, the classic land use aspect of things. We're looking at it in terms of the social, okay? But at the same time, our charge under seeker is to look at environmental impacts of transportation projects. And this kind of environment, if you will, where you've got a mini city coming in and you've got another city that's already established, the community college. And we know that, as Kara's saying, the projects are, the city is supposed to have the walkable, bikeable, etc. Are we losing that with this particular project? And because we're losing it, does that, again, strike at the pos deck?
Well, those are good points, but I would, as staff, we would like to see an expanded Part 3 addressing all those comments before we would recommend going into an impact statement.
That might be, poor man's EIS, it could be done that way.
That would limit the scope to the particular issue and not have to go into a full...
No, that's as far as I personally would want to go.
I think that would be a wise course of action at this particular point in time, rather than pos deck. But I'd also like to know, what Mr. Wyckoff is doing in terms of putting in bike lanes on his property and all kinds of stuff. A good portion of this site is his thing. And how does this integrate into the county proposed road project?
There is an existing environmental impact statement that the town of Islip is reviewing. They have not done, to my knowledge, they have not done detailed site analysis, so we don't know linear feet of anything or how many of these elements have incorporated into which particular phases. But to the extent that we can take a look at that in the Part 3, we'll help. We'll help the.
We also have the planning director from Islip here right now. If I may, Jim, may I ask him a question?
Sure.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Absolutely.
What do you think? Okay, I mean, basically, is there any provision, A, in the Wyckoff project for biking, etc., and is there any provision in there, or ideas in there, about how that might integrate into this particular project?
In the design guidelines, there are bike lanes, there are complete streets in the design. The integration between Crooked Hill Road and the development, as Andy stated, those details aren't really tied together right this second. We're signed on to Complete Streets. We're partners with Complete Streets at the town of Islip is. County Executive Steve Malone also signed the poster for Complete Streets. So
And the legislature passed.
I would imagine DPW would look at the plans to see what can be incorporated.
We've got a clear disconnect then.
Yeah.
And it's a Part 3 that we have to do, in my opinion. I don't think we can proceed until we know really what we're looking at. You can't have a mini city going in with thousands of people and a community college sitting right there. And given the programs that you just described and Kara's talking about, you can't have that and have this disconnect. Basically, you have people riding, and suddenly they're going to be in traffic.
Crazy.
I think that there's, and I hate to micromanage at this level, but I think it's legitimate questions, and for the group, I think it's something we need to ask. A Part 3 would cover it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just to see what's going on. We're looking at a design issue and how it integrates in. And again, I'm looking at it from 30,000 feet. I'm not trying to look at it as a micromanagement. Quick question, Victor, would this kill anything if we wait a month or something?
It's not a problem waiting a month. The only thing is, it's the question of the property. We don't own the properties adjacent to CR13. We're actually getting some dedications through the state and the college and what have you. And they already given us what they can.
I get what you're saying.
Within those parameters, I don't think we can fit the bike lanes.
Well, let me go into design then.
Yes.
Okay, if you got two sidewalks on both sides, and we're looking at this problem.
Yes.
Okay, you've got a Faustian bargain here, basically. And again, I'm just positing this is
Well,
not official
I
or
know what
anything
your
like
question
that.
is, but the one section, if we
Where can
eliminate
you buy?
sidewalk, there are poles in the way. We cannot do that. We need the sidewalk.
Wait a minute. Yeah, come on. In East Hampton, let me tell you.
This is not East
I don't want to go
Hampton.
into.
This is
I don't
50
care.
miles
But the
per
point
hour
is,
roadway.
they can be moved. They can be buried. There's a lot of options. The options are not closed yet. The options still exist.
Mr. Chairman, if I
And
could
that's
just, I think what we're looking at is we want DPW and their engineers to look at the complete streets legislation in Part 3. We want them to take into account the Heartland and the community college, and then we want them to give us reasons or why practical elements are incorporated or can't be incorporated into the project. And then I think CEQ could review those reasons and then make a determination moving forward.
That's,
that would
that's the
be
language for any motion that we make. That is the exact language that we would need. I'm sorry? I don't care.
Oh, there is. It needs to be looked at.
Yeah, I think that that's correct. Basically, what Andy had pointed out, the project could be tabled for that specific reason, and that a Part 3 be drafted up and addressed.
I got one or two quick other questions as long as we're dealing with this. Stormwater capacity. You were the prior project that was reviewed here a couple of months ago, I believe. This is tying in. Are you going to have enough capacity
Yes.
to handle it? Okay. I mean, I know it's sandy soil up there and there's good infiltration.
No, we
somewhat
did the
familiar with it.
calculations and we're able to accommodate all this.
And the other question is, and this is just weird, why is this bifurcated? It's almost like a segmentation in its own way. I mean, we got a project, the southern end of this 1 month, 2 months ago, and now we're getting this one. Why wasn't it just sort of happened that way?
You kind of, yeah. We were planning on doing our section for years ago, and they needed to do this for.
I'm not going to make an issue of it.
Yep.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about tree removal and any replacements?
Very, very minimal. There really is not many trees within the frontage of the existing road line. Minimal, and the replacement, I'm assuming it'd be on a 1-for-1 or, low plantings, so that block sight distance, but the amount of trees along that corridor is minimal.
Yeah, it's basically pitch pines, as I remember. It's relatively well lined.
And on the east side, there's really, it's pretty much developed as rock stone yards and storage facilities, so there really isn't many trees on one.
But there may be reason to add them, is there?
Well, I didn't say that they're not going to landscape, as necessary. I'm talking about the removal of trees, very, very little.
I got one more question. This would be addressed to the Director of Planning, Town of Islip. Do you have any concerns that you think we should be looking at this point in time? To the extent you're able to say anything.
Of Crooked Hill Road or concerns with the
Our
project in general?
our particular situation in front of us.
We've been working with DPW about the acquisitions of the properties, trying to sort out which ones are affected by our IDA, which does have some deed rights over some of the properties. So we're working with them expeditiously to try to get the acquisitions in place. I haven't looked at the widths of those, and I haven't seen a cross-section of the road yet, but I'm anticipating seeing those soon as they get into the 80% design.
Does this fit in? This is one of the primary connectors out of Pilgrim / the city over there to the primary transit corridors of the Sagna Coast and the LIE. I know that there are other connectors to the south and things like that, but this is basically the primary, which is why it's going to 4 lanes. Does this, if you will, coincide with or work with the draft EISs as they exist so far that's been presented to you? In other words, is there a seamless transition?
So far, the development of Crooked Hill Road, the plans that have been developed are in tune with the DGIS. The FGEIS is just about complete at this point. So,
I have another question with respect to SECRA. Basically, this project is being proposed because of the proposal before the town of Islip, for the Wyckoff development. Is this segmentation? I mean, technically, a project and all associated impacts is supposed to be explored in the FGIS and the GEIS. But yet you have the county segmenting off this because this proposed improvement is going to be required because of that development. And is this segmentation under secret?
Well, I don't know if DPW, and I don't want to speak for Victor, but I don't know if the higher-ups in DPW would necessarily agree with that. I think that they may saying that they have anticipated the increase in volume on this particular stretch of roadway in any event, with or without Heartland. And these are programmed improvements that are in the tip. They've been planned for a long time, and when Heartland comes along, it will feed into the improvements that the county is already committed to.
All right. Can
Not
you
to
put
put
that in
words
part-
into
no, that's correct,
DPW's
actually.
mouth.
Can you put that in a part 3?
That language?
That language, and also, what is part of the FGEIS or the GEIS that accommodates bike lanes, because they're proposing that this project is going to be great to everybody. Well, the answer is, well, once these people get out of the development, where are they going to go?
Jim,
And that should be taken into account in the environmental review.
it's almost like a coordinated review in its own way. I mean, what you're suggesting is, to some degree, a poor man's coordinated review, if you look at it that way. Basically, we would be looking at, and this would be the burden upon you, it's not that hard to meet. It's basically linking, doing a quick analysis of what Heartland is doing in terms of bike lanes and other issues, and linking it into our part 3 in a, without doing the coordinated review, but you're doing the coordinated review. That's, I think, almost the burden upon you, because otherwise, frankly, you do get into, and Jim is very correct, you do get into segmentation issues. I mean, realistically, in a perfect world, and I see Rick writing down, so I'm being very, very careful what I'm about to say. I don't want to say nothing. Realistically, in a perfect world, this should be a coordinated review, okay, between the Wolcott project, Heartland project, and the county's actions. They should be taken and looked at together. To a very great degree, there is coordination. I am aware of that, okay? It's just not been formalized, if you will, and that's what I think, and I'm not speaking for you, but that's what I think Jim is concerned about, and I think doing the part 3 will alleviate some of those concerns.
And because one of the things you want to consider in a secret is cumulative impact.
Yeah.
And the Wolcott development is going to have a tremendous amount of cumulative impact just outside the site development. The question comes down to is how is that being taken into account in the GEIS and the FGEIS and what the county's proposing?
It's a complex issue.
So I have a motion. Do you want to table pending a...
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I believe we should table this project at this point in time and ask for a Part 3 EIS, specifically looking at the bike lane issues. And then there was some other language that I believe Andy had come up with. I'd like to incorporate that into the motion also.
Okay.
I'll second.
We'll work on it.
All right, those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes.
We'll reach out to you, Victor, and we'll get the ball rolling on that. We'll coordinate with iSlip, and we'll start working on the part 2. Get that done. Right, we've got to just pull it together and present it to you.
All right, why don't we take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back and complete the rest of the agenda. Call the meeting back to order.
We're back. Yeah, I hope Estrada did the top.
The next thing on the agenda are recommendations for legislative...
Pitcher, shut
You need the name? Robert Estrada, okay. I'll give you the address. I mean,
Ooh, a
phone number and
gavel.
stuff.
Come here,
Okay.
Pitcher. Come here.
Recommendations for legislative resolutions laid on the table March 18, 2014. John, can you give us an overview and any issues?
Our recommendations are on the left-hand side of the LADS report. One thing I thought for your information to bring to your attention, IR 1294, that was the one we looked at pretty carefully 2 months ago. It was for the acquisition of Boyle Road. So this is the resolution for the acquiring the school property to turn into ball fields on Boyle Road. So this does have the CE2 SECRA recommendations, type 1 negative deck with the reason. So I just thought I'd bring that to your attention.
What's 1299? I mean,
Yeah.
it looks like it's investment stuff, et cetera. It's a type 2, but it falls within our historic aspect to
It's
some degree because it's Vanderbilt.
right. It is strictly just percentage of investment. What stocks versus securities. It's just a very technical how the money is being invested as part of the.
Do they have a professional money manager doing any of this? You do? Okay.
He came and made a presentation to the committee about this and in great depth, and at the suggestion of Lou DeMaro, who's sponsoring this legislation, they wanted to loosen up the guidelines, because when the market crashed and the principal in their fund got low, they severely restricted how they can invest the money, and they just loosened it up.
The county kicked in a couple $100,000, and that was under Vivian.
Yeah.
What are they going to be going to? I mean, they're shifting the
I think
allocation.
they're limited to, I'm not certain, but I think they're limited to 10% invested in securities at this point. Is that right?
Securities.
And they're bringing it up to 20.
And that would, securities meaning bonds or stock?
Stocks.
Okay. So the counterpoint to that would be the rest is in bonds?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I come from a Wall Street family, so.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. They're all thieves.
All right, anything else, John?
No, that's, yeah, from a secra standpoint, there was no items that we felt needed to be corrected or.
Now, 1303, I love void. And the rest of it, I looked through it quickly. I don't see any problems with the staff, right? So I'll make a motion to accept staff recommendations.
All right, have a second. Those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Approved. Next thing on the agenda, CAC concerns.
I would like to request a presentation about the Clean Streets legislation for next month.
Complete street.
Complete streets.
I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said clean streets.
That's
We
okay.
know you like cleanliness. We short-sheeted your bed once, we know.
Complete Streets legislation and how it affects municipalities. I know municipalities pass the legislation and it has a certain impact, but how does Suffolk County's legislation impact? Well, we know it has an impact here, but I would just like to know.
I think that's a good point, but not necessarily municipalities, but how does that legislature impact Suffolk County per se?
Yeah.
And how it works.
Yeah.
And how it works.
Yeah.
And is DPW aware that this legislation was passed and that they're supposed to be taking into account some of these major policy positions in their planning?
Yeah.
From the
Looked like
get-go.
they were not sure.
From the get-go, because it sounds like.
It's recently just passed, right?
It's, I don't know, Karen, when did Suffolk County pass it? New
In the
York
last 6
State
months or
passed it.
No, it was a while ago.
Oh, really? That much longer?
Yeah, it was like a year and a half, maybe.
Oh,
a year
really?
and a half ago.
New York State passed it in
Yesterday feels like a
August
week.
2011.
All right, but I'd be interested to know,
Yeah.
is DPW, reviewed this legislation and what are they doing to incorporate it in the county?
Yeah, especially because we've got a policy out there to try and encourage bike lanes whenever possible.
So, thank you.
All righty. Anything else? Yes?
Road trip.
Yes.
Where are we going?
Seriously.
Could we go to Hubbard in May? We've talked about doing it.
Yeah.
Marianne, that's assuming summer occurs. Okay, we might want to go to June. I mean, we just got snowed on now.
Now, I like doing it before the ticks
Yeah.
completely wake up.
And the poison ivy.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
No, I think it's a great
No, I
idea.
think it's great.
I'd ask staff to just look into that to find out the feasibility of holding the next meeting in
Make
Hubbard.
it slightly later.
In time during the day?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
We're gonna do that.
If we're going to do that, that would be, I
Let's do
like
it later
the
in the day.
suggestion that instead of starting at 9:30, we start at 10:30.
Or 10, or whatever. Just
Ooh, she and I a bunch of us have to drive in fair distance to get there.
I get up every morning and
That's
get here.
You're an EastEnder.
No, that's
You're an
a good
EastEnder.
point.
We don't have a budget for
And
lunch.
I'm further
They
than
would have
that.
it
You
covered.
East
Do
End
we have a
types.
budget for lunch?
I gotta get my daughter on the bus at a certain time, I can't.
All right, so staff will look into that, and if possible, we'll hold it in Hubbard.
Yes.
I guess assume that's going to be held at the Smithers?
Yes, we do have a meeting
Hubbard.
room there, Ducks Unlimited's office.
What's the status with the Black Duck? I mean, that has an apartment in it, but the rest of it's still gutted?
Yes.
Yeah,
After
you
30
can't
years?
meet that.
No, you can't, it's,
No, we can't
it's,
meet there.
there's no light.
But
it's-
Ducks Unlimited, we can meet
Does
there,
someone
no
live
problem.
in the
Yeah.
apartment?
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll hit the
We've
road
had
next
Black
month.
Duck once in a long time.
But you said
Yeah,
it
that
was
was still walls
gutted.
Half of the building, we put a wall up
Right, half the
to
building
separate
is-
the
is
apartment
not
from the rest.
habitable.
All right, so, anything else?
Yeah, I think we need psychiatric help for Victor. I think we blew his mind.
Motion for the meeting adjournment?
Motion.
Second.
Anything to get away
All
from
those in
Jim.
favor? Opposed?
All right. Where's our staff? Take this away from Jim, please.
Well, they only,
There we go.
only need to
John
use
got
it to
it
get you to sit down.
It's safe.
That's why I wanted to take it away.